Welcome to another insightful episode of Vastly Sage. My name is Amanda Tambuza. Today we tackle the topic of mental wellness. It is something that is so close to my heart, and so many people neglect their mental health. And how do you cope every single day with all of the hardship and changes all around us? And today I brought two experts who can help us unpack this. Dr. CHAWANE, who's a specialist psychiatrist, and the clinical psychologist, LUNGILE LECHESA. Ladies, I'm so happy that you're here. How are you?
Very well, thanks. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for braving this conversation. I know you probably just prefer being in the background. So I'm going to start with you, Lungile.
Sure.
What has your journey been like? How did you become a psychologist? Was this something you kind of fell into, or was it designed? Tell us a little bit more.
Sure. So I actually took the scenic route. My first honors was in industrial psych. So after that, I thought, oh, I'm ready to make money. The power suits, the high heels. So I did go into corporate, but it was not for me. I've always wanted my ideal job was one where if I go to bed every night knowing that I've helped at least one person, then I'm happy. So after trying the corporate route from banking to consulting, I thought this is not it. Then I applied for my master's.
But what wasn't it? What didn't you like about
I
it?
didn't like the culture. I didn't like it. It wasn't human enough for me. I didn't care whether the bank was making their money or not. I felt like I wanted to help people. So it wasn't serving that purpose for me. So I had to quit my job, become a full-time student, sell my car to get into the master's program because it's full-time. I've been very happy since then. I mean, I would do it all over again.
Okay, so we're going to come back to you in a bit. And Clem?
When I did medicine, that's when I was formally introduced to psychiatry. And
So you studied medicine?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you have to study medicine and then you specialize in whatever you want. So when I was in medical school, then one of the blocks I enjoyed was psychiatry. I just had lots of questions about it. And even though it was something that was like looked down upon, like if you wanted to specialize in psychiatry, everybody would be like, but why do you want to do that? You know, but there was a lot of people that were suffering. There were few psychiatrists. I think there's still few psychiatrists in South Africa. And yet the proportion of patients was very high. So I just felt like I connected with them better than I did with peds or surgery. And so when the time came, I just went and specialized in psychiatry, and it has been the most beautiful thing. It felt very right.
So what's the difference between psychiatry and psychology? So let's say the difference between what you do as a psychiatrist and what you do as a psychologist.
Fundamentally, so she can prescribe, whereas I won't. So if you were seeing me for therapy and we felt that you could benefit from medication, I would then refer you to Clementine. She will manage that process and see, are the meds working, are they not working, what needs to be altered, and all of that.
Okay, I'm with you. So yours is more on the counseling side. So more therapy.
More therapy.
Okay, all right. And you can tell us more, doctor.
So like I said, you have to do medicine first and then you specialize. And so we do assessment of patients, and then depending on the severity of the symptoms, sometimes we decide whether or not the patient needs medication. But we work closely with clinical psychologists because you can't just rely on medication. You know, if you're depressed, it changes your point of view and you sort of become or see the world in a negative way. So therapy helps, you know, to change your point of view and challenge negative thinking. And so we work closely with them, you know. So all my patients are seeing a psychologist.
Oh, that's good, because I think you know, one of the things I always have an issue with just medication is you're just treating symptoms. You're not actually going deep into understanding why a person is feeling that way. But also, how do you equip them to deal with everyday life without having to pop a pill every time they're facing difficulty. And are you enjoying what you do?
Very much.
You couldn't pay me to do anything else.
Really? Why is that? Is it more the helping people side of it?
And it is such I think it's such a beautiful profession.
Yes.
Because you actually get to witness people change,
Right.
people grow.
The transformation.
You see the transformation. I absolutely love it.
Do you ever get sad? Because I mean, listen, I've been listening to people's problems. I don't know when I became the resident social media psychologist, but you know, and I share that with you. I share that sentiment of wanting to help people, even if it's just giving them a kind word, even if it's just reminding them that they're actually great and that they deserve a good life. But you know, I've kind of had to learn to not suck it in, because if I did that, then I'm no good to anyone.
Yeah.
In fact, I think there are days when I get a long message and I'm like, I'm not going to read that today because I'm not in the right mental frame. How do you cope with so much? I mean, it's a lot, eh? You guys deal with a lot. How do you cope?
It's not for everyone. But I am in therapy myself.
Yeah. Okay.
And also you have to have a supervisor.
Yes.
Because there will be things that you feel too attached to or too close to home. You take it to therapy, but you also take it to supervision, where you have somebody help you to think about what is happening with the patient. And to almost help
and your
you
own
to
reaction
remove.
to it.
Absolutely. And to help you understand your own reaction. Just take yourself out of it.
Yes. And Clem, when people get to see you, it means it's
They
rough.
already know.
Like they already are at a very advanced stage of needing help.
Yeah. I think in medicine, they train you to have a professional relationship with patients. So you have empathy and you sympathize with people, but you don't get too emotionally attached. But once in a while, you do have cases that will really, really make you sad. So it's just about just keeping it professional. And like you said, we have to all see psychologists, all right? So we can debrief. All right, because if you don't, and sometimes we go and debrief our own personal experiences, so that you don't bring your personal experiences into a therapeutic room.
Of course.
You know?
But also you are bound by a professional code of conduct. So you can only talk about the impact that something has had on you rather than the actual case.
Well, it depends, because when it comes to supervision, I then have to say...
Yeah, because that's within the professional conduct.
Absolutely, but then I wouldn't say, you know, I'm seeing Amanda and whatever the case may be, you still try and disguise the patient so that there's still confidentiality, but then the actual case itself, that you can then present.
And I think that's very important, because the reason a lot of people don't see psychologists is because they're like, now I must go tell people my problems. They feel like it's them, they're opening themselves up to someone who can then go talk about them. I think it's important for people to know that that's actually not even...
It's not the case at all.
And it's not allowed.
It's
you could lose your license.
It's actually an offense.
Exactly. It's a criminal offense. So I want to talk about... I mean, I selected the two of you to help me with my group therapy program. Thank you so much.
Thank you for selecting us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I mean, I must tell our viewers, we met at my branch, my uplifting branch in November. And I mean, those who don't have tickets, I'm sorry for you because it's sold out. But this is what happens. You get to meet people in the right places and you connect. And I remember saying to the two of you, and I'm so glad you actually came and actually introduced yourselves to me. And I remember saying to you, we're going to do something together. There's something I've been thinking about. And it just felt right. It just felt like, you know, God put us all together to actually do this. And I want to find out, are you spiritual?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Because especially when you talk about medical, people who tend to be in the medical field or more in the science type field, I think they have this feeling that they play God all the time, so they don't believe in God. So are you deeply spiritual?
Yes, I am. I am deeply spiritual. So, I mean, I was Christian before I even became a psychiatrist. So yes, they do teach science, and sometimes science does disregard God because science is about Big Bang theory
and factual things
and stuff, all right? But especially in psychiatry, we have a chapter on spirituality. Because we understand that spirituality is a very vital part of every person's life. Right? So people who are more spiritual sometimes have a better chance of rebounding from whatever they're coming from, because they're able to look outside of themselves when they can't find answers within themselves. So yes, personally I am spiritual, but yet at the same time, in a professional setting, I usually say I'm an atheist, all right?
Doesn't matter.
All right. So I just have to always be objective and not bring in my spirituality. But if somebody is spiritual and they want to talk about spiritual things, sometimes I do engage in that. In that way, and it helps to keep you sane, because you go home
you grounded,
and you pray, and
I also think, though, and before I come to you, Lungile, I also think that there's this sense of, and I don't know if you feel that way, but when you are a person that is so invested in helping others, you also need the help. You know, you also need that grounding. You need, I almost say I get the answers from my spiritual grounded, just that spiritual grounding. That's where I get to listen to God and hear what it is that I'm supposed to be doing next, you know? And you?
Yes.
For you?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I think it's different with CLEM, because I actually have people who want a Christian psychologist.
Oh, is that so?
So then it gives me an understanding that I am then free to bring in my Christianity into the room. But I'm absolutely led by my faith. I don't do anything unless God has given me the go ahead. So I try by all means to incorporate it into my work. Even if it means we're not sitting talking about it in the room. But I pray about my work, I pray about my patients, I pray about the things that I need to be doing and not doing. So
especially not doing. And so through my the program that I started, group therapy, which was 8 people for 8 weeks of intensive work. I mean, going in at the end, the last session, and saying farewell to the ladies was just incredible. It was just so special to hear their own testament of what the process has done for them. And to be honest, that is exactly what I had in mind. I think God had planted that inside of me to say a lot of people don't have access to psychologists, because first of all, it's not cheap, right? And also culturally, it's not something that people ordinarily say, you know, this is something you must make part of your living. Do you find that people come to you only when they've already been experiencing hardship? Or do you have people who actually have embraced that counseling and therapy is actually a part of life and should, pretty much like you go for a massage, you should be going to a therapist every now and then? Do you find that it's changing, or it's still very by the way you must do this?
I'm starting to see a change, which is quite nice, because it's coming from the younger generation.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I get people who contact me and they say, I'd like to start therapy. Then when you come in, you know, I find out why you've come. It's just like, you know, I don't know. But I feel like I need to work on myself. I feel like I need to incorporate this into my wellness. Which is really great, because it helps to prevent you coming out of desperation when now you've had a meltdown. And things are absolutely terrifying.
And on your side, do you get people that come to you and say, I just want the medication without the therapy?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you do. People be
So
like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
So they come in and yes, they've already diagnosed themselves. They know which medication they want and they don't want therapy. Usually they're the ones that have been stuck for a long time, you know, because therapy is challenging, all right? It forces you to change. And some people don't want to always change, you know. It's like the world must change and accommodate them. So
and those are the ones that need therapy the most.
All right. So the ones that decline therapy are usually the ones that need therapy, all right? So that some people who might not necessarily benefit from therapy, because therapy is also not for everyone. You must be able to engage, all right? If you can't engage and then you're just going to sit there for an hour and stare in each other's eyes, it won't work. So there are few people that won't do well in therapy. But most of the time people do need therapy.
And I think just to come in there, that makes sense, because one of the things you both wanted to do before we settled on who was going to be part of the program was that you wanted to interview them. which I must say, I was like, really? Oh, okay. And the time you wanted, I'm like, 45 minutes. Don't you look at a person for like 2 minutes and decide, okay, this one needs help. Yeah. So I get that, because not everyone is suited for therapy. And this is what you're saying. So what about the people that need help but are not suited for therapy? I mean, I guess they can go to church and pray, but what else can they do?
But I find that those are the people that don't feel like they need the help.
Not
So
because they don't need it.
Yeah.
Because they don't need it, but they don't think they need the help when they actually do. You also get people who have an understanding that, okay, maybe I need help.
Yes.
And then they come in for 1-2 sessions and they're like, this is not working.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not magic.
Yeah.
You actually have to do the work.
Yeah.
So you also get people who need the help, but they're not prepared to do the work.
Oh, absolutely. But I also think the difficult, and you said it, Clem, where the therapy is a very difficult thing because it forces you to look inside.
Yeah.
It forces you to go back to places and things that were probably traumatic and you've kind of stored them in your subconscious and don't want to deal with it. I want to talk about, the state of the nation, right? And I think maybe before I get to the state of the nation, before we close this conversation, I would like our viewers to be able to recognize when they need help. So at the back of your minds, if you can think about, how can they themselves say, I think I need help, or this is why I need help. And I want to talk about the state of the nation. I mean, we're still in the middle of COVID-19 lockdown. And we every day we hear we're on the brink of a third wave. First of all, I don't think anyone can afford to have the country locked down again. It has just devastated businesses, has devastated families, livelihoods. Yes, lives have also been lost, significantly so. So we are in the middle of a really challenging time. How are you seeing that we have a really depressed nation? And I know it's a global thing, but I have to zone into South Africa. Are you seeing more and more people coming in for grief, for having lost their livelihoods and family members? Or are people just sitting in their corners and trying to handle it by themselves? What are you seeing?
I'm seeing a lot of people who are not coping with the whole being at home. Because now you live at home, but you're also living at work.
Yes.
It's become quite an adjustment for a lot of people, particularly those in corporate. Yeah. Where I don't know, there's this idea, bosses have this idea that now you're sitting at home, you've got more time. So people are working
more and longer
and now
hours.
They're becoming burnt out. They're becoming stressed. They're becoming overwhelmed. They're just not coping. So I'm seeing a lot more of that.
Okay. So people are battling with the transition and the change. But also, I guess, if all you ever did was leave your house at 6 and come back at 5, if you're lucky, or at 6, that's you also don't actually even have a connection with your home. So and now you're forced to face up to your home, and now you've also dragged all the work home.
Absolutely.
Okay. And is it more men or women, or are you seeing a mix?
I'm seeing a mix.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a nice mix. I mean, a lot of people think that men don't believe in therapy, but actually they do.
I think
they
men don't talk about it.
Yes, but they do.
Yes,
they
some
do.
men don't talk about it, because I've got friends who publicly declare that I have to see someone. Which is wonderful. And we'll talk about the changing and the cultural shift in perceptions around therapy. What are you seeing in during this period?
So the thing is, we are anticipating that people are having problems, but it's not like we are more busier than we were in the past. So I think a lot of people are still bottling things, all right? But also, there is a stigma, a prejudice about psychiatry and psychology. So people think, when I'm okay, I see a psychologist. And then I'll only see a psychiatrist when I'm crazy.
Mad.
You know?
Go see a shrink or something.
All right. And so people are associating psychiatry with literal madness. And so until I'm mad, I don't need to see a psychiatrist. So the people that are usually coming to us are referred by general practitioners or psychologists because they are not coping. So I think that, even though a lot of people die, and it was a traumatic kind of death, it was cultural shock as well, because you had to bury within so many days and you can't travel and all that. And so we're anticipating that people would come and be battling with grief and things like that. But typically people hold it down.
Yeah,
you know,
until it affects them,
can't.
and physically they start getting sick.
Yeah.
And tell me something. Does it bother you when people call you a shrink?
No.
Oh.
No, I am a shrink.
I am a shrink proudly.
I am a shrink proudly. You know, I just want people to normalize mental health, all right? To not separate it from physical health.
Correct.
As much as you're comfortable seeing a GP or a gynecologist, you know, just go and make sure that you are okay mentally as well, you know?
And I think it's so important, though, because it is what sets people apart when the hard times hit, right?
Absolutely.
You agree?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because you can sit there and think, no, I'm fine, but then something really happens, because life is full of boulders and obstacles and challenges. But sometimes people are like, but why is this small thing has just thrown me off completely? I'm like, well, actually the small thing just triggered all of the things you haven't been dealing with, you know. Do you find that there's a shift between men and women in terms of seeing psychologists and psychiatrists? Do you think men run more to medication straight, or they're actually okay to still see a psychologist?
If I think about my referrals to a psychiatrist, the men are just like, but no, why are we doing medication? Women are like, yes, give me
I'm like,
3
I'll pop a
referrals.
pill,
I'll
I'm
pop a
fine.
pill, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But I must be honest, I think in my practice, I've been pleasantly surprised. I've had a nice balance of young men, old men as well.
Yes.
And not forced by their partners, no threats of if you don't see somebody, we're divorcing. So it's been quite a very nice surprise for me. To know that men are also taking care of them themselves.
And do you see the same thing?
So the thing is, with us is also different illnesses, right? So most of the time, if I see men, it's because there's substance abuse.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
If it's just depression and anxiety, not so much.
Okay.
All right. And it doesn't mean that they don't suffer from it.
Yes.
It's just that they want to man it up.
Yeah.
All right. Their ego doesn't allow them to be vulnerable, and so they seek help. But they don't seek help,
They
or
don't.
they seek help in other ways.
Yeah.
All right. And so substances. So we're seeing an increase in substances, and substances including alcohol, because people don't regard alcohol as a substance.
It's definitely a substance.
And so they are abusing alcohol. So by the time they come to us, yes, there is underlying depression or anxiety or trauma, but now we have to deal with the substance addiction.
Yes.
Right. So
which is a complexity on top of complexity. So it just keeps building up and building up. Do you think that, and I want to just talk about in a moment the selection of a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but do you think that, I mean, we've had huge and traumatic and just horrible cases of gender-based violence in South Africa, and I always say that, you know, someone didn't just wake up and become a murderer, okay? Someone didn't wake up and just decide women are less than me and therefore I'm going to. Do you think that those layers of complexity of trauma and untreated trauma and whatever else people may have gone through, do you think those contribute to all this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I did a short stint, maybe a year stint, in a forensic unit where I was actually working with perpetrators, as we call them. And I prior to that, I had never conceptualized the idea that these very people that are committing these crimes are so broken. So it was a bit of a shock to my system, but it also helped me to understand why people do the things that they do.
Yes.
Sometimes I don't get it because I'm just like, sure, but why can't you know? Especially the really horrifying cases.
Yes.
But they're quite broken. They're quite broken, and they also need help.
Yeah, which is very difficult to say somebody needs help when they've murdered somebody.
That's the thing.
Because you actually we see them as monsters. We don't see them as human beings that need help. And on your side, Clem?
Yes, everybody has a story to tell. Everybody is from somewhere. Like you said, they didn't wake up and just wanted to murder someone. And so there are psychologists who actually go to prison, and as part of the correctional service program, all right, they do go and see this what people would say psychopath or serial killers and all that, to see what is really happening in their psyche and see how they can best help them.
Yes, yes.
So we usually say that a person is like an onion, all right? There are layers to them, all right? And so the thing about it is that when they come thinking it's one layer.
Yeah.
And then as we unfold, then we find that there are more deep-rooted things that will take time to sort out. And so people just want to come in today, get a pill, and they think that tomorrow their problems will go, and it doesn't. It takes time.
Yeah, and this is why for me mental health is such a crucial thing, because I always say that also, though it 100% starts at home.
Yeah.
Is how are you raising your kids? What words are you feeding them? Because if you keep chopping away at their self-esteem, at some point or the other they're going to have to see a therapist to deal with those. And this concept of and I mean, listen, our generation is proper, like we had it. We had it all. But we are now the parents to this next generation. So it's what can we do differently to empower them? First of all, to recognize when they need help. Right? Because even people who have come from wonderful homes still need their mental health to be, because they come across many other things in life that they struggle to deal with. So I always say that because I had a traumatic childhood, it doesn't mean that I'm the only one that needs help. Even when you've come from a wonderful home, you may just have had things that you didn't deal with. Someone might have said something to you that landed off, but you didn't deal with it, but then it just grows legs and feet and things, right?
It does.
The selection of a therapist is something that I always say to people, selecting a therapist, you're going to have to go to multiples of people before you settle on the one that resonates with you. Do you find that people they just want to go to that first one and then there must be a match, or then they give up because this person is not what I want them to be?
I tell you when you call to schedule an appointment that I'm going to use the first 2 to 3 sessions as intake.
Yes.
So not only am I doing an assessment, but you're also sussing me out and seeing if you'd be comfortable working with me or not. And I actually say it to you. I say, if you feel like you don't like me, you don't click, whatever the case may be, let me know.
Yes.
And I'm happy to help you find
just pay
somebody
for the
else.
3 sessions.
Just pay for the 3 sessions, yes. Because it's important. You have to have a good connection with the therapist. Otherwise it won't work.
Yes. Otherwise you don't feel safe.
Otherwise you don't feel safe.
And
I also get people who will call me, they say, no, Amanda is seeing you. Amanda says you're amazing. Then they come and I say, well, please don't think you'll have the same experience.
Correct.
Because we're 2 different people. We'll interact in different ways.
And the energy
is not the same.
And also, do you find that as well, or it's less so with psychiatrists?
No, they do. I mean, patients will tell you, I moved from my psychiatrist because I didn't feel they listened to me, or I didn't like the fact that every time I come, they just want to increase my dose of script, or I've been stuck with the same medication and yet I don't feel like it is helping me and I don't feel heard. So connection is very important.
It's everything, right?
So we usually don't take offense if somebody says, I want to go somewhere else because I don't feel like I connect with you as well. Because it's not like you come there and I only write a script, right? I also do check on you and stuff like that to make sure that you are fine, you are making progress with your therapist. If you are in therapy, you are making changes in your lives that are that were suggested, that you are dealing with your stresses, rationally. So it's not like you just come in and I write and you go.
Can you talk about chemical imbalance?
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that's not well understood. Because again, that's why I was so happy to have the pair of you, because one is a therapist, the other one is a psychiatrist, which you deal with different things. You might be treating, similar things, but the way you handle it or how you go about it, your approach is different. Can you talk to us about some of the things that lead to a chemical imbalance? So things that lead to a chemical. First of all, what is a chemical imbalance?
Yeah. Okay. So we have this thing called neurotransmitters in your brain. It's like hormones.
Yes.
Like women have estrogen that helps them to feel good, and then when estrogen runs out, you become menopausal.
Yes.
All right, and you might be grumpy with the menopause as well.
Yeah.
All right, and so like you have estrogen, you have a thyroid. If we take out your thyroid, you won't have enough thyroid hormone, and therefore we might have to replace it. All right. And so I always say that people think emotions are coming from their heart.
Yeah.
All right.
But heart only pumps blood.
Yes. All right.
Not
it only
love.
pumps blood. It doesn't solve problems. So when somebody says I have a heart problem, it's the heart that pumps blood that has a problem. It's not that you are overwhelmed or you're in a difficult marriage. All right. So emotions are run by your brain. It's a well orchestrated complex thing that is happening in your brain. All right. And so neurotransmitters help to keep us level. So we have a few ones. We have serotonin, which is more like your happy neurotransmitter, or happy hormone. All right. And in patients with depression and anxiety, whether it was because of chronic stress, so you've been stressed for a long time, since childhood, you were picked upon, you were bullied, you don't do well at school, domestic violence, all those things, anything that a person can perceive as stressful, all right, because stress is also very subjective. Stress can cause a chemical imbalance in your brain, and it usually targets the serotonin. All right. So you find that you now start feeling depressed, you're anxious, you're not sleeping well, there's changes in your appetite, changes in your sex drive, changes in your motivation. Suddenly you don't feel like you enjoy the things that you previously enjoyed. Those are the typical signs of depression. All right? And it's because of that chemical imbalance.
So you have less
serotonin. Yes.
Okay.
In your brain.
Yes.
All right. And then there are other neurotransmitters that I don't want to bore people with, like there's dopamine, adrenaline, and things like that. So I'm just targeting serotonin because it's one of the most common. All right. Because most of the patients, when we prescribe an antidepressant, it has serotonin.
Okay.
All right. And so if you're menopausal, we're going to prescribe hormone replacement therapy, which has estrogen. All right. So that you are balanced again. And so serotonin is that. So when we give you an antidepressant, we're trying to correct that imbalance that was caused by multiple factors.
Do some people, or can somebody be born with depression?
So the thing is, remember,
for a chemical imbalance. Let me go chemical imbalance, not depression. Chemical imbalance.
They can be prone to developing a chemical imbalance. We can't say scientifically, yes, for sure you were born with a chemical imbalance, because we only know that you have an imbalance once you start having symptoms.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
But yes, there are people that I see who saying, I started feeling depressed from childhood. I just didn't have the vocab to say it. All right. Or my family dismissed it. But for us, as usually Black people, there's no vocab. I mean, what is depression in Xhosa?
No.
You understand? It doesn't exist. And so
sort
we
yourself out. Stop being lazy.
Right?
Right?
So it's those kind of things. So yes, people can be born with a chemical imbalance, but it only manifests later on, usually when there is a major stressor, and then suddenly you find that they are unable to rebound or come back from whatever hardship.
But I think this is where the role of the caregivers at home. So I'm going to call them caregivers instead of your mom, your whoever is looking after a child. We should also be looking out for signs of, because children are supposed to just generally be happy and playing and they don't yet have the influence of society that we as adults often have to deal with. So we should actually be a bit more conscious about the mental state of our children as well. So I want to wrap this conversation up because we can talk forever. But I want to just start with you, Lungile, and say, what are the 3 things that people can do every day to make sure that, first of all, they are tuned into their own mental state? So what can they do to make sure they're tuned into their mental state? And if at what point should they seek help? Because I think this is very important. Is how do you recognize you need the help, and at what point should you seek the help?
Sure. So I'll start with, when do you know that you need help? I always say the moment you ask yourself, if there's a question mark, chances are there's something. Because I mean, if everything is fine, you feel okay, you're not wondering and doubting, then chances are you're okay. But when you start feeling a little bit off center, you start asking yourself, is there something wrong? Do I need help? What's going on? Then I would say rather seek help sooner than later.
Yes, yes.
Because that's always, it's easier to prevent.
Yeah.
Like they say, prevention is better than cure.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
With the things that you can do daily, so I swear by alone time. It could be 10 minutes, it could be an hour, whatever works for you, where it's just you, your thoughts. You sit, you check in with yourself. If you're doing it at the end of the day, how was my day?
Yes.
How am I feeling? What am I thinking? A simple check-in, nothing magical. No,
a lot of people always
gymnastics.
think, I don't have time for that, I'm too busy.
Yeah.
But then they sit in front of a TV and watch whatever for the next 2 hours.
Absolutely. I mean, pre-lockdown, what I would do, when I get home, I'd sit in the car. Before people know that I'm home, I'd sit in the car, 10 minutes, check in with myself, center myself, so that by the time I walk into the house, I know that I've had my alone time. I've had my. I mean, you could do it in the shower.
Yes.
Right. It's nothing. It doesn't have to be sexy and all of this. You need
what
a journal and all of that.
What I used to do was just like let everyone. I'm just gonna go into the bedroom and take off my clothes. That's what I would say. I just need to get out of my work clothes, and then I close the door and have my time.
You have your time.
Take off my work clothes, just recenter myself, and let go of whatever energy I may have picked up along the way. Okay.
Another thing that works quite well is journaling.
Yes.
Because we often think that the things that are in our minds, our thoughts, are reality, but they're not. So journaling and talk therapy helps because you take the stuff out of your mind. You put it somewhere where you can observe it, and then you can engage with it. I want to say less emotionally and more objectively.
Yeah, but you can understand.
You can understand what's going on. It helps you to process what is happening.
Okay.
And the third thing would be speak to someone.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a professional.
Yes.
It could be a friend you trust. It could be a family member. Just having a strong support structure really goes a long way.
Absolutely. And for you, Clem, what would you recommend?
So to add on that, it's something called mindfulness.
Yes.
All right, which is very important. It's just like the me time, but it's more focused, and you're just sitting there and say, how am I doing? Is there anything bothering me? Am I sleeping okay? Am I stressing? You know, just checking in with yourself, but like be more intentional, all right? And if you find that there are issues, then escalate, all right? Whether you're going to escalate by talking to a professional or escalate by talking to someone outside of yourself. You know, just to have that objectivity in your life. Little things like exercising, eating healthy, having enough time to sleep, and it must be a restful sleep. It's very important.
I think some people are proud that they only sleep for 4 hours. I'm like, I'll die.
You're gonna burn out.
And your body doesn't get enough time to recover.
Yes, it
My
does.
gosh, I have enjoyed this conversation so much.
Thank you
for
so
coming
much.
through. I have no doubt that this is going to help a lot of people.
Thank you so much for having
I
us.
appreciate your time, and thank you for my group therapy session. We'll do more and more as soon as I have money. They don't work for free. Well, that was another exciting and just insightful episode of Vastly Sage. I hope that you've taken something away from this conversation, because it is so important that our wellness is rounded, not just physical and just emotional, but mental. In fact, I think mentally, if you're not balanced, none of the other things in your life are going to work as well as you would like them to. So please take the time to get to know yourself. Do that inner work, which a lot of people don't want to do. But I think there's real benefit in that, because you get to understand yourself. But okay, let's not get too complex and say inner work. Just check in with yourself every day and see how you're doing. And if you're not doing well, seek help. There is no shame in it. In fact, there is shame in never seeking help when you need it. So until next time, thank you so much for tuning in.